I was 17 when she came to my door. I had spent all my life with my angry, violent mother, who blamed me for everything. It was a cold winter night, almost midnight. My mother had passed out after drinking, and the house was quiet except for the wind rattling the windows. When I heard three soft knocks on the front door, I hesitated. We never had visitors that late. When I opened the door, a little girl stood there. She looked about 6 years old. Her skin was pale, her blonde hair was tied into two neat braids, and she wore a faded pink dress with a small tear near the bottom. Her bare feet were dirty and turning blue from the cold. But what froze me in place were her eyes, completely black, deep, and empty like a night with no stars. I quickly stepped aside and let her in. I wrapped her in a thick blanket my grandmother had knitted years ago. She held it close, though strangely, she didn't seem cold at all. Trying to sound calm, I asked softly, "What's your name, sweetheart?" For a long moment, she just stared at me. Then she whispered, "Lana." "You can stay here tonight, Lana," I said, showing her the couch. She curled up quietly, those black eyes following me until I left the room. That night, for the first time in months, I slept without fear of my mother shouting. The next morning, I woke to a coffee mug crashing against my shoulder. "What did you do to the couch?" "Why is there dirt all over it?" my mother screamed. I looked and saw the blanket lying empty. Lana was gone, and only muddy footprints and bits of dried leaves remained. I told my mother I had brought in a stray cat. She didn't believe me and slapped me hard across the face. I said nothing and went to school. At school, whispers spread fast. "Did you hear? That little girl, Lana Thompson, was found dead last night." My stomach twisted. They said she had been missing for 2 days. I sat in silence the rest of the day, trying to make sense of what I'd heard. When I got home, the news was showing her picture. Lana Thompson, age 6, was found buried behind her home late last night. Police suspect her mother, who has a record of abuse. I stared at the screen. The photo showed the same little girl, same pink dress, same braids, but her eyes in the picture were light blue, not black. That night, I tried to convince myself I had dreamed everything. I went to bed early, my cheeks still sore from my mother's slap. Sometime after midnight, I woke to a cold touch brushing the bruise, a tiny hand. I froze. Then a soft voice whispered near my ear, "Never again." The hand vanished and I sat up, trembling. Before I could move, a scream tore through the house. My mother's scream. I ran to her room. The door was half open, and the lights flickered. My mother was thrashing on the bed, her face twisted in pain. Something small and pale was crouched on her chest. I could hear the wet sound of flesh tearing. My mother screamed louder, but her voice broke into gurgles. The little girl turned toward me. Her mouth was covered in blood, and when she smiled, I saw rows of sharp, shining teeth. "Never again," she said once more, before ripping my mother's throat open. I fainted. When I woke up, sunlight streamed through my window. I was lying in my own bed. For a moment, I thought it had all been a nightmare. But when I walked to my mother's room, the bed was neatly made. She was gone. The only trace left behind was a trail of small, dirty footprints and the window standing wide open. I never saw my mother again. I never reported her missing. No one asked questions. Life moved on. Years later, I got married and had a daughter. I named her Lana after the little girl. My wife thought it was a pretty name. Lately, though, I've noticed the girl next door. She's about 6'2", often has bruises and scratches on her arms. Her parents shout a lot at night. A few nights ago, I couldn't sleep. I looked out my window and saw a small figure walking barefoot through the snow toward their back door. She wore a torn pink dress, and her hair was braided. For a second, I could have sworn she looked up at me. Even from that distance, I could see her eyes, black as ever. Her lips moved, soundless but clear.